Hey, what's going on, everyone? My name is Matt Jarbo. This is 3 Buck Theater, and welcome back to RT Recap, where I take a look at Rotten Tomato scores for upcoming projects and then and decipher what they mean. I talk about what they mean, good, bad, or otherwise. And today, we're going to be looking at probably my most anticipated show of 2018. And I haven't done an RT recap on a show yet, but I figured if I'm going to do one, I'm going to pop my cherry the right way, and that's going to be looking at Daredevil Season 3. Now, right now, it's sitting at a 94% rating out of 16 total reviews. Fresh would be 15, rotten would be 1. And 98% of people want to see it. Of course, that's only 408. And looking at how Netflix tends to not talk about well... the way that it handles anything, obviously. We don't know how many people are going to actually watch it, so on and so forth. But just even looking at the general critic reviews and the kind of the top suggested and what people are going to read. For those of you who don't know what RT Recap is, I look at just these top scores and I just look through them because this is what the average person is going to see. And I like to kind of decipher them in a way that gives, I think, maybe a better understanding of the project, at least from my perspective. That's how I view it. So we got 16 total reviews, 15 fresh, 1 rotten. And if the rotten doesn't appear on this list, we'll take a look at it because I just want to see it myself. Now, it says here from Brandon Katz from Observer that there's a linear flow to it all that is focused and efficient. That doesn't mean the show couldn't lose steam like so many other promising yet still flawed Marvel series on Netflix, but so far, so good. And then Norman Wilner here says, I'm still watching, so I guess it's good enough, but I also know that it could be so much better. So I don't know how many of these episodes that they've seen. I don't know if they've seen the whole season or just a couple, the first little tidbits, first like 4 episodes or whatever, which I find to be a little bit odd that it would even be up here on Rotten Tomatoes. But just even looking at those two, Brandon here saying that, the show is focused and efficient, but it doesn't mean it couldn't lose steam like so many other Marvel shows. But so far, so good. And giving it a B+ rating, meaning that the show is still flowing very, very, very well, but it could somewhere down the road lose its luster like perhaps Jessica Jones or Luke Cage. Jessica Jones season 1 was well loved, right, by a lot of people. Season 2 was really heavily criticized. Luke Cage season 2 was way better than season 1. And Iron Fist season 2 was way better than season 1. Some have argued that Daredevil season 2 was not as good as season 1. I argue it was actually better with the inclusion of the Punisher and the Fisk dynamic involved in that as well. I think it just an Elektra. It really brought in a great season that tied in a lot of stuff that led very much into the Defenders, which was basically Daredevil season 2.5, to be fair. But looking over what Norman here says, saying, I'm still watching, so I guess it's good enough, but it could be so much better, means he probably has a little bit of issue with the way that they've been handling the show so far. It's the structuring, the pacing. 13 episodes is what Netflix orders, right? They want 13 episodes, but they realized with Iron Fist that they shortened that to 10, so they could then maybe tell a more concise story. And that so far has actually been one of the leading problems with these series, where you could trim out a lot of the excess stuff because you don't need to fill that particular gap, right? Luke Cage season 1 would be a lot better if they would have cut out a lot of the fluff. Luke Cage season 2 could have been a little bit tighter as well. Jessica Jones season 2, again, same thing. Iron Fist season 2, 10 episodes is actually pretty solid. So it worked out pretty well. For me, though, because I'm such a huge Daredevil fan, I want there to be more episodes. But if they're not telling the story in a succinct and fast way, a good pacing way, then I can understand why it would be good to maybe look at trimming some of the fat. Now, it says here from Charles Barfield from the playlist, just as Matt Murdock rises from the ashes and rubble to save Hell's Kitchen one more time, Daredevil season 3 could potentially do the same for Marvel shows on Netflix. Now, what I've heard about that essentially is what it boils down to is that it's moving away from the greater connected universe and is doing more of its own thing. And as a result of that, people have been more happy about the singular side of things. But me, as a person who loves the connected universe, I want more connectivity. I want it more open. And that's my take on it. But that's because I feel like the MCU absolutely needs to have that. And yes, I'm referring to Daredevil being in Avengers 4. Feige, make it happen, you son of a bitch. But it says here from Scott Kalura from IGN Movies that season 3 is a strong outing, as new showrunner Eric Olson reorients the Man Without Fear very much to be full of fear and obstacles as he attempts to climb his way out of the debris of everything that has come before it. And a lot of people have also talked about the political side of things in regards to Daredevil season 3, that there are some political aspects to it that are referencing current events, and they don't want it to be political. I'm hoping it's not too on the nose, that it does kind of keep things a little bit more fancy and flighty and not as drenched in our own current political fare. But that being said, there are politics at play within the series. Obviously, Fisk and Daredevil, the politics, the dichotomy of good versus evil, your eternal soul versus everlasting life, that whole thing, like heaven, hell, damnation, salvation. There's all those themes at play. So again, it's one of those aspects that goes into it here. But it is going to be interesting to see where Matt Murdock is going to climb himself out of, because in Daredevil season 2, at the end, he lost everything, right? He lost Foggy. He lost his practice. He lost Karen. In the Defenders, he has still lost Karen. He put away Daredevil, and they're still not even really talking until they reconnect in Defenders. And then at the end of Defenders, he dies making out with Elektra, her death and his death. But then we find that he's been pulled out of the rubble, and now he's almost an entirely different person. This time around, taking on not only Fisk, but Bullseye. Can't wait for that. So, I mean, there's a lot that's going into this that's going to be very interesting. Now, Charles Pullman Moore from IO9 here says, while the show definitely unpacks the moral gray area the player exists in, the characters' conceptualizations of themselves are all very black and white. But that's always how Daredevil has been. He's always trying to navigate the gray area while always talking about the black and the white. Right, as I just pointed out, is a lot about the heaven or hell, the black or the white, the yin or the yang. There's no real middle ground. The middle ground, I think, in Matt Murdock's mindset would be more like purgatory, right? And so when he's stuck in purgatory, he's pulled in different directions and he's stuck. And so, yeah, the characters and their conceptualizations of themselves are going to be black and white, because that's how. Because keep in mind, we're looking at this through the lens of Matt Murdock. We're looking at this through the lens of Daredevil, of that Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde personality situation. Well, I don't know if I want to say Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde. That's more of a Venom thing. But definitely there's a dichotomy there, right? Like he puts on the mask in order to do what he couldn't do otherwise. That allows him to be the Man Without Fear. That's his way of doing it, but now he's got to take himself out of that again or rebuild it. Although this time it does appear that he's going down a much darker path. Now, Manny A. Castellanos here from Geeks of Color says, Vincent D'Onofrio continues to give a rich, powerful, and intense performance as Fisk. Many say he is one of the best comic book villains in the MCU, and I would argue he's one of the best in the superhero genre. So, yes, I remember when they first cast D'Onofrio as Fisk, and you first see the first teaser trailer for Daredevil, and they show just a behind the shoulder shot, and the camera pans in and he kind of looks to the side. You're like, oh yeah. And then he gave this excellently nuanced performance in season 1. In season 2, it was still fantastic. And I think if they're going to take him on in Defenders, as I talked about in my Daredevil or in my Future of Netflix series video, that Fisk should be the Defender season 2 villain. Right? Fisk should be the villain, and that they all have to come together to fight him. It's not just going to be Hell's Kitchen and Matt Murdock versus Fisk. It's got to be everybody. But then at that point, Fisk has got to also bring out his own group of bad guys. Imagine like Davos, right? The Steel Serpent, Typhoid Mary, all coming in to team up with Fisk to take on the Defenders. It would be like Civil War Hell's Kitchen edition. That'd be pretty freaking awesome. Now, Meryl Barr here from Forbes says, there are things to love. There are things not to love. Matt is great. Fisk is great. Bullseye is awesome. Everything not involved with those 3 people is okay. And you can tell that that's going to be a large part of where the series where this season goes, is they're going to focus on those 3 because they don't want to separate it out to be too much, right? Giving us a great villain, giving us Bullseye 3 seasons in is what fans have wanted. Foggy and Karen and that relationship is obviously going to take a little bit of a back seat. But Matt also has to repair those relationships as he comes to, determine whether or not he's going to go full devil or not, right? That's going to play a part of it, because Foggy and Karen do help keep Matt's soul intact. They are part of him. And I hope that Karen, they tone down the crying aspect of her a little bit. Like I like the character. I liked her all the way through Defenders, Punisher, everything. But I'm wondering if they're going to follow the comics Because if we follow the Man Without Fear, written by Kevin Smith, we know what happens to Karen at the hands of Bullseye. And if you've seen the teaser trailer, you see that there's an exact shot of there's a copy of Daredevil holding onto the cross on top of the church, which is the opening frame of Kevin Smith's iconic graphic novel from the late 90s. So like and even the Daredevil 2003 film copied that shot as well, which is such an iconic shot. So definitely going to give it up to Kevin Smith on that one. But yeah, I think that's going to be in there. And then Mike Cecchini here from Den of Geek says, at the center of it all, there's Vincent D'Onofrio's Kingpin, desperately missed from season 2. The show once again feels at home, telling the parallel stories of Matt Murdock and Wilson Fisk. So we get a lot more Kingpin. And that, to me, my friends, is fantastic. I am 100% on board with that. He was a highlight. And teaming up with Bullseye, ooh, that's going to be a good dynamic, right? Now, I do want to take a look. Those are all fresh reviews. Those are all fresh reviews. There's one rotten here, and it's from Krish Evangelista from Slash Film, which is actually surprising. Saying here, where does this go from here? Can Daredevil survive a 4th season, or is it time for the character to hang up his horns for good? Which, again, these don't tell you much about what to expect from Daredevil, but it does give you an idea of maybe where things end up. Right? The show maybe kind of clinches everything together in the 3rd season. Maybe they decided to kind of wrap up a certain storyline or certain storylines. And then it goes, maybe, well, where does it go from here? Where is Matt Murdock's journey going to take him next? Which tells me that both Bullseye and Fisk are possibly defeated, which is, at least for right now. But then again, I mean, even look at the end of Defenders, right? They thought Matt Murdock is dead. He came back. He's back, and are the other Defenders going to make an appearance in the season as well? I don't know. I haven't heard any mention of that at all, but they did talk about Matt a bit in Luke Cage and a little bit in Iron Fist. And even Jessica Jones kind of had a reference to it, as what happened in the past. So I'm wondering if they're going to, because they're still roaming around New York, and I'm wondering if they're going to make an appearance. Probably not. I'm probably getting my hopes up on that one. But anyway, this drops tonight at midnight. So literally 14 hours from now. I cannot wait to dive into this particular show. I very much love it. I've loved it for 3 years, since 2015 when I first watched it. I've seen season 1 a couple times. My girlfriend has marathoned season 2 more than twice. And with her favorite conversation being season 2, episode 4, between Frank and Matt in the graveyard when Frank is injured and telling the story of how his family was killed. Just the passion and the intensity from Bernthal in that particular scene, and then the juxtaposition between their ideologies, the dichotomy between their worldviews was just amazing to me. And I'd love to see more of that in this. And I think Matt is going to be having those internal conflicts as time goes on, with battling his own inner demons. Again, say salvation and damnation. So that's going to be very fascinating to watch. But anyway, I could go off on this for a long time. I leave it to you though. What are your thoughts on this one? Let me know down in the comments. If you guys made it this far, type in Bullseye in the chat. That way I know. And definitely leave your comments. Are you going to watch this all this weekend? Let me know. Be sure to thumbs up the video. Please thumbs up the video. Subscribe to the channel. And check back often for more content from me. My name is, of course, Matt Jarbo. This has been $3 Theater. Have yourself a great day. And peace out.